Hello everyone, and welcome back to FDLServices Healing Channel. I am Todd Dobson, I'm your host, and today we will review examples of traumas. I have 4 examples of traumas so that you can understand what is making up a trauma. Because there are 4 different examples and it was taking so long, I separated this out from last week's detailed on what a trauma is. So we will go through example number 1, being fired for being gay by the Thompson Corporation. I was 28 and working for Information Access Company, IAC. Our product was in every major corporation and government agency, including the White House. Thompson Corporation owns IAC. Thompson Corporation is a conglomerate of news and data information companies. Companies such as Thomson Publishing and Reuters, along with other holdings in the financial, healthcare, legal, scientific, and tax accounting sectors, such as Thomson Financial, Thomson Healthcare, Thomson Scientific, and Thomson Tax and Accounting, to name just a few. There are many Thomson holding companies. I signed up to do the Boston to New York AIDS ride in tribute to a close friend who had been living with HIV for years. Rob used his family's political connections with the Republican Party to lobby and educate representatives and senators on the importance of investing in HIV/AIDS education throughout the late 80s and until the mid-90s. He spread awareness of what it would take to fight the pandemic. I asked my boss, Dave, if I could request support for the 300-mile, 3-day ride within the company. Dave was fine with that, but indicated I needed the president's approval. I asked the president, who was an adrenaline junkie, and he became excited about the ride and my training, the bicycle I was riding, etc. The president donated $600 and introduced the fundraiser in the following senior leadership meeting. I raised the entire $2,200 from IAC alone. It felt great that so many people were supporting my efforts with the Boston to New York AIDS ride. One person, however, Bob, had an issue with me and the fundraiser. Bob had a young son who was born with an autoimmune disease. During the early 80s and 90s, the only place to get medical help were the few hospitals and HIV wards that treated the growing HIV/AIDS pandemic. So Bob and his son would be surrounded by gay people who were dying from HIV and AIDS every time they had to go into a hospital. The HIV/AIDS wards infuriated Bob. Bob was homophobic, and because I was doing the Boston to New York AIDS ride, he assumed I had to be gay and have HIV/AIDS. It was a shocking and deplorable to hear Bob tell other people in the company, "You can't believe anything he says. He's just a faggot and infected with AIDS." The week I took off to perform the ride and spend a couple extra days in New York City, Bob, Dave, and the IAC HR went through everything in and on my desk, looking for reasons to fire me. They found nothing, but the shock of what just happened hit me hard. The next 3 months were a constant battle. Neither Bob nor Dave had anything to do with me, as they tried isolating me and treating me so appallingly in hopes I would resign. I met with the director of HR numerous times, and he told me in his outrage that he would resign his position at IAC if anyone came to him wanting me fired. That was exactly 7 days before he and Dave met me as I arrived in the office one morning. I sued IAC for wrongful discharge, and I had an excellent case because I had been collecting emails, documents, and pictures of what Bob and Dave were doing. After I proved the company was lying, the magistrate of the first case slammed the gavel down on his desk, pointing it at the CEO of Thomson USA. You need to settle this because it won't be good for the company. In the second hearing, I again proved IAC was lying through their teeth, and the magistrate, different from the first magistrate, was even more incredulous, yelling at the CEO of Thomson USA that it would not be good if they didn't settle this. Thomson USA could not win, and we had one final hearing to go. Thomson USA ended up bribing the final magistrate with a $60,000 Thomson Financial Retirement Fund. Donna, who unwittingly delivered that payoff to the magistrate weeks before my final hearing, provided me with these facts. Donna resigned her position the following Monday after delivering the bribe to the magistrate. Several years later, I inadvertently worked with Donna at MCOR Corporation out of Stamford, Connecticut. On Donna's last day with MCOR Group, she came to my desk and we took a walk and talked. She shocked me by confirming what I had suspected and gave me so many details that I should have been scared, but I was grateful she helped me find closure. This was an extended trauma that has lasted for most of my career. I never trust HR at any company because they are not there for the employees as they pontificate. Instead, they are there to figure out how to legally do what the company wants done, regardless of how ethical it may be. It hurt that Thomson USA was blackballing me in the tech industry. They watched my every professional step by keeping tabs on my career. This added to the trauma that was tied to multiple negative programs. Over time, this trauma and the associated negative programs formulated multiple negative belief systems. All of this caused many triggers that negatively impacted my career for years to come. Now on to example 2, being run over by an 18-wheeler on the Mass Turnpike. I was 20 years old and living in Natick, Massachusetts. This was before my technology career took off, and I worked for the Marriott Corporation as the youngest food and beverage manager. I had been with Marriott for over 1 year, and at this point, I had worked over 45 days straight when I finally had a day off. The regional manager called to inform me that Bill Marriott Jr. was flying in. I needed to get there before he arrived, so I showered and rushed into Boston to meet with the company's owner. On the Mass Turnpike, there are several toll collection locations that you will traverse as you travel from Natick, Massachusetts into downtown Boston. I was in the furthest toll booth to the right at the second to last toll collection spot. Mine and the 2 lanes to my left merged into the far right lane until you arrived at the following toll collection location. An 18-wheeler left before me, and he took the second from the far right lane. As I left, I could move quickly in the far right lane, passing the 18-wheeler. I was to the right of the trailer portion of the rig when suddenly he started moving to the right and into my lane. I stood on the horn, but it had no impact or warning for the 18-wheeler driver. As I honked, there was an emergency cutout lane that appeared to the right, and I moved into it until I was out of room. The front of the Chevy Corsica I was driving was pointed and low. The 18-wheeler hit me and at the speed that he was going, he actually went over the top of the Corsica, all right, not caring who he hit or that the trailer was actually bouncing and almost turning over on its side as he came over the top of my car. A guy driving to the left of the 18-wheeler witnessed everything and tried to get the 18-wheeler to move over to the right or to stop. So he tried getting in front of the rig to slow it down, and they both pulled into an emergency cutout, but when the Bronco driver couldn't go any further, he stopped and the 18-wheeler swiftly moved to the left, almost hitting the Bronco, speeding up and leaving everyone behind. Massachusetts State Police stopped the 18-wheeler at the following toll collection site. He swore he didn't hit anyone, but the police found my driver's side mirror embedded within the spare tire of the trailer, along with blue marks on the new chrome trailer, the blue matching the blue of my Corsica. The driver was arrested, and we found out that he had a woman in the cab of his truck. She, however, was not his wife. He had also been cited by the Best Corporation twice before for having his wife and other women riding in the rig with him on long hauls. He lost his job, his wife divorced him, and he stayed in jail until he was able to actually work his way out. This trauma impacted me for years to come. It wasn't as daunting as so many other traumas or negative programming, but I still needed to heal, release, and forgive. Trauma example number 3, being kicked on my birthday by Ken, father figure. On my 5th or 6th birthday, Ken and Juanita, father and mother, argued for hours before Ken left for work. It was my birthday and Ken forgot. Juanita was angry because there was no money to buy a present or a cake, and Ken couldn't care less. Juanita kept asking where the missing money from their account was. The untold story is that money oftentimes went missing from their accounts, which generally meant that Ken blew the money on other women who provided sexual encounters for him. Because they were arguing, 3 of us kids knew to stay outside and out of sight. If we were in their line of sight, they would take their anger and frustration out on us. So we remained outside playing in the yard. It was a hot, sunny May day in southern Louisiana, and eventually we became thirsty. None of us were willing to go inside for water, so we drank water from the outside water spigot on the side of the house. Kenny, older brother, and Tanya, younger sister, drank their fill. I knelt on my knees, drinking water with my mouth close to the spigot, when suddenly I was kicked with immense force. I flew about 6 feet away, but my jaw and lips were caught on the spigot and blood flowed from both of them. My lips were bleeding, my jaw and side hurt. Later, a massive bruise showed with several hurting ribs, and the pain was severe when I tried to take a deep breath in. Ken was yelling obscenities as he kicked me. A heck of a birthday from the man who gave me life. This trauma took a long time for me to heal. I couldn't understand then or for years to come how a father could treat his flesh and blood so incredulously. The pain from the kick healed, as did my ribs and the cut lips and hurt jaw. But could a man be so mean to anyone, much less his own son? Ken never slowed down from kicking me and walking to his car as he left for work. He never apologized. The trauma was tied together with multiple negative programs that increased its impact. I eventually healed this trauma and the corresponding programs that accompanied it. Example trauma number 4. This one may be hard for people to hear or to review. However, I will go through it as I can. The day Kenny, older brother, was to appear for his tour of duty in the United States Navy, I was up early getting ready to go to work. Kenny did not graduate from high school and was going into the Navy. If that was his path, I was happy for him. But I would also be relieved that he would no longer be home tormenting me. I would get a break from the abuses and physical beatings that Kenny delivered regularly. Nothing he ever did to me before prepared me for the gay bashing that happened that morning. I ate cereal that I bought, given that I worked full-time and paid for all of my food, my car, and everything else that I bought or needed. Neither Ken nor Juanita, mother and father, bought anything for me since I started work at 14 years old. As I rinsed my bowl and placed it and the spoon into the dishwasher, Kenny told me he needed a bottle of hairspray. I responded politely that Ken probably had extra in his bathroom upstairs, so he should grab one. Kenny was standing between the kitchen and the hallway, so I turned around and went around the refrigerator and into the living room, entering the hallway from that angle. It was my habit to go as far around Kenny because if I excused myself to squeeze by him, it would allow him to hit, flick my ears, punch, or say something lewd, which was often how Kenny treated me. As I walked past where Kenny was standing, he grabbed the back of my shirt and threw me down on the floor on my back. This took the breath out of me and bloodied the back of my head as I landed very harshly on the slab of the house. Kenny quickly jumped on my chest and pinned my arms with his legs and started punching me repeatedly in the face. With every punch, he yelled at the top of his lungs, "This is to show the world what a faggot you are." He remained doing this for such a long time that I was choking on the blood in my throat as he blackened both eyes, almost broke my nose, bruised both sides of my neck, cheeks, and jaws. Blood was everywhere as he just kept punching me, yelling how I deserved this because I was a faggot. Ken was upstairs in his bedroom getting ready to take Kenny to New Orleans for his induction, and there was no way Ken did not hear what was happening. Kenny didn't care, and obviously neither did Ken. Only when Kenny felt he was done with me did he get up, and he kicked me in the side as a final good measure. I was close to blacking out, but when Kenny got off of me, I scrambled to get up and into my bedroom, locking the bedroom door behind me. I was in the tiny half bathroom trying to assess the damage. I couldn't see clearly because I was crying, and both eyes were bleeding. My nose was pouring blood. My front 2 teeth were broken and loose. One barely remained in my mouth, while the other one I found on the carpet in the hallway where I was ambushed. My lips were bleeding, and I had blood coming out of my right ear. As I tried to see through my swelling, bloody eyes, someone started pounding on the locked bedroom door. I scrambled to close and lock the bathroom door behind me. I picked up the a baseball bat I kept in the half bath, but I couldn't hold it like I was about to swing because the room was so cramped. I didn't know if it was Kenny or Ken, but I heard them break through the bedroom door and start pounding on the bathroom door. Ken broke the bathroom door and door frame as he ripped the door and hinges off, throwing them on the bed behind him. I stood there with a bat raised in my hands, barely able to see as blood flowed everywhere. Ken looked at me with disgust in his eyes, took the bat away from me, and raised it above his head. He finally said, I should finish the job. As his lurid stare told me he was contemplating just that. He finally threw the bat behind him, putting a hole in the wall across from the bathroom as he turned and left. This trauma had numerous negative programs tied to it. The trauma reinforced the existing negative programming that I was worthless, unlovable, and that I was a worthless piece of shit. It took me many years to get over what Kenny and Ken did to me that day. It took me very concerted effort to heal the trauma along with the corresponding negative programs. Now this concludes the examples of trauma. Next week, we will talk about what negative belief systems are, what makes them up, and examples of them. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great day. I will see you next week.